Well, welcome back to another week's Look at the News. You know, we hear an awful lot more about the hacking of the Chinese army into businesses, into some of the grids that are out there relative to our electricity and everything else. The question being asked is, are they just coming in to take a look at the secrets, the industrial secrets, or is it possible that they're looking for a way to actually shut our electrical grids down? Gee, I wonder which one it is. Like both of them, maybe. And the People's Liberation Army every year reiterates that the chief enemy of the PLA is the United States. They don't hide it at all. Anybody can go out and look for it on the internet and discover that this is the case. They have proclaimed themselves our enemy, no matter how much they trade with us and everything else. We see even things on television where China has led a 30-year boom because of the great leadership of the Communist Chinese government. Well, I'm sorry. It's because you're going down to Walmart to buy all that stuff. That is why. If we had not done that, if Richard Nixon and that guy Henry Kissinger had not gone over there and did what they did, China would still be in the throes of poverty. As a matter of fact, the average Chinese today lives on $2 a day. That is not the image you get when you go to Shanghai and places of that nature. But that's the way it is across the board in China. There's a growing so-called middle class, but other than that, you get out into the real world of China, you find out how poor these people really are. And by the way, I'd love to just spend a dissertation on what middle class means. Middle class does not mean you put on a white shirt and tie. Middle class is where people are entrepreneurs. They form their own businesses, they form their own stores, they do their own thing. That is the middle class. It's not employees. I don't care how much money they make. They are not the middle class. The bourgeoisie, as the communists call them. They want to wipe out the middle class, they say, but they really want to wipe out the bourgeoisie. It is the entrepreneurs. It is the free thinkers, if you will, in the economic marketplace that go out and start things. But they're trying to shut all of this down by hook or crook. And one of the things they're going to be using, again, is this transatlantic trade and investment partnership. Talked a little bit about it last week, where Obama has a two-ocean convergence program. They're not free trade. All you libertarians out there, people in the Cato Institute, don't go gaga over this stuff. It is not free trade. It is convergence. It is control. If it was free trade, as I said, you'd put it out on one sheet of 8.5 by 11 piece of paper saying, we agree that we're not going to interfere with your trade, your businessmen and our businessmen. That's the end of it, period. It's gone. We're talking about inches of agreements, at the very beginning of which will say that they are under the Charter of the United Nations. That's simple. As a matter of fact, if you don't believe that, you get some very interesting clues from Foreign Affairs, the publication of the Council on Foreign Relations. For transatlantic trade, this time is different. How different is it? They say that actually what they're going to be doing, and this is a quote, in the broadest terms, a U.S.-European Union trade deal will allow the United States and Europe to maintain their sway over global economic governance. Global economic governance. Not free trade, governance. Both recognize that their ability to set global rules, not free trade, will diminish as economic power shifts to the Asia-Pacific region. In the coming decade, no one power will be able to drive the international agenda. But if they join forces, the United States and Europe, can channel their combined economic weight to keep control of the reins of global economic order. Global economic order. That's not free trade. And then from the European Commission, we have Carol de Gucht, European Commissioner for Trade saying this, quote, "A future deal between the world's two most important economic powers will be a game changer. Together, we will form the largest free trade zone in the world. This deal will set the standard not only for our future bilateral trade and investment, but also for the development of global rules." It's not free trade if it's rules. Free trade is where there are no rules. I get to trade with you and you get to trade with me and government gets to take a nap. That's the way it is. It's not free trade when you're talking governance, rules, regulations, world economic order. Sounds a lot like the New World Order. At any rate, moving on. Something that you may have seen, seized Chinese weapons raise concerns on Iran. Oh, well, why doesn't it raise concerns on Chinese? Oh no, it raises concerns about Iran. It seems as though an Iranian dhow, a boat, was seized off the shores of Yemen, and on board were a sizable quantity of anti-aircraft missiles, ground-to-air, heat-seeking like the Stingers, only the Chinese model. They were shipping them to terrorist organizations. Now, these are Chinese weapons, right? Iran is shipping them to these terrorist groups, right? Now, it raises concerns about Iran. Well, wait a minute. Chinese, what is it about Chinese people can't get through their thick skull? If it's Russian, if it's Chinese, all Iran is doing is the middleman for these people. That's all it is. If China doesn't want this, they stop selling them to Iran or giving them away, such as in the case of this one here. Russia will begin, now keep your ears open on this one. Russia will begin supplying weapons to Iraq in spring. They made a $4 billion deal for the Russians to arm Iraq, in addition to Iran, and the Chinese in addition to all of these countries. This is a harbinger of things to come. It has always been the problem with terrorism. We've been trying to tell people for years, this is not Islamic terror. It is Moscow and Beijing. It always has been. It always will be. They supply the weapons. They wouldn't supply the weapons unless there was something that they really wanted to accomplish. And these dumb guys down at the bottom that blow themselves up for the 70 virgins haven't got a clue what the hierarchy of the terrorist groups are doing. They're communists. Turkish communists, still waging a Cold War that no longer exists. They get your mind set on this title. The Cold War doesn't exist anymore. These communist Marxists inside Turkey are going out and blowing up our embassies in Turkey and killing people for a Cold War that doesn't exist anymore. Where are they getting the explosives? Where are they getting the weapons? Who's giving them their orders? The Cold War never was over. What happened was they segued into a new way to accelerate the program while the American people went back to sleep. The American people never asked, what happened to all those Communist Party members inside the United States? What happened to all the Communist Party in all these communist countries that supposedly withered away? Did they just stop paying their communist dues? They honestly gave up freely the governments of those countries without a whimper, let alone a fight? I don't think so. So in the meanwhile, we're helping all these areas to overthrow rivals to such a scheme. By the way, they're saying that new Syrian aid slammed by rebels. They're not getting weapons from the United States. They're only getting food. Well, let me say that there's a saying that has been going around for centuries. An army travels on its stomach. If you're giving the rebels food, it's the same as giving them ammunition, because they wouldn't be able to fight, they wouldn't be able to march, they couldn't be able to run, or they couldn't be able to fire their guns if they're starving to death. So we're supplying them the food. Somebody else is supplying them the arms. Couple of things. One thing in the last thing that I'll talk about is the New York Times yesterday. Long border, endless struggle. You know, in the history of the United States, we were a proud people that we had open borders. that we did not have to worry about invasion from Canada, invasion from Mexico, or anything of that nature. We kept open borders to where our citizens could come and go freely. What is the problem with the border? The problem with the border is not that people can come and go freely. It's the policies of the government inside this country when those people come here. If we did not subsidize them, if we did not give them free this and free that and free the other, put them on the dole, let them vote even, and that sort of thing, they wouldn't come here. It is that simple. They come here because they know what they can do to take advantage of the system. We have created a system that encourages not only our own people from laziness and not working, to others coming across the border to do precisely the same. The problem is here. It's not the border itself per se. Until next week, we'll see you then.